Hello everybody, it's finally Richie here. I'm going to do a video. Siren Records Monterey is having a contest. They're giving away a Miles Davis album, his newest album. I'll leave a link to the video to where you can enter the contest. All you have to do is leave a comment. You don't have to make a video or anything to enter the contest. But I thought I would show my Miles Davis records. I did a video recently on how to organize your records, and I made a comment that my Miles Davis consisted of like 60% of my jazz records, and that I intentionally, when I pulled the JIT from the jazz section, I intentionally didn't pull any Miles Davis. Someone made a comment that, you know, they would like to see the Miles Davis records, so I thought I would show them here, and I'll leave a link to the Siren Records Monterey video. So enter the contest. I subscribe to their channel and enter the contest. I made the comment that Miles Davis consisted of maybe 60%, maybe 70% of my jazz. Well, it turns out it's more like 20%. I have gotten rid of some of my Miles Davis 80s albums. In fact, I got rid of, I traded in some jazz records, so my jazz section is a lot smaller than it used to be. I'm coming from a rock. I was raised the Beatles. I saw them on Ed Sullivan. I became a rock guy, and I come towards jazz as a rock person, and that's how my taste. Well, you'll see. I'll go into it as I go. This is a comp. It's on Prestige Records. It came out in the early 70s. And this was actually, I think this was the first jazz album and the first Miles Davis album I ever bought. This is actually, it's Cookin', which was recorded in 56 and released in 57. And Relaxin', which was recorded in 56 and released in 58. It's a gatefold, and it contains those two Prestige albums. I know there's another one, and they're really good. I wouldn't mind getting some more of the Prestige ones, but they seem to be kind of expensive or in bad shape. And there's another one with a red cover that's, I think it's Steamin', and I don't remember the other record. It's a combination of two of his. But I recommend these. They sound great. And yeah, it's a cheap way to get those early Miles. Those, you know, the late 50s ones. My next one is Kind of Blue. Came out in 59. Everybody knows this that knows jazz. This is the best-selling jazz album of all time. It is a fantastic album. It's just the beginning. It starts out with So What? Dun, 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 dun. I mean, I was hooked. Great album. Very simple, but just beautiful. But anybody that knows jazz knows this album. My next one is Miles Davis Live in Europe. This came out in 64. Really good cooking album. It's got a really good it's a 16-minute version of Walkin'. I dig this album, man. Don't know what else to say. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on these. I'm not going to show the labels. I normally show the labels on my records. This next one is Miles Smiles. 67 this came out. This is the second great quintet, I guess. I think it's the second one. Yeah, the Miles Davis Quintet. I believe it's the second album of, I think they came out with 6. This does not follow the constraints or the patterns of bop, and it's not free jazz either. It's what would later be called labeled post bop. People like to label stuff nowadays, man. They just categorize everything into these little subgenres. But yeah, this is a great album. I really dig this album. 67. Now this is when it starts to get good for me. It's Miles Davis, Miles in the Sky. This came out in '68. It's the first album with guitar. It's on one song, Paraphernalia, and it's George Benson plays guitar on that one song. Really trippy album cover. The music isn't quite as trippy as the album cover. Look at that. That is a great shot of Miles right there, dude. Now, when I was a kid, like I said, I bought that comp. I probably bought that in maybe my first year of high school, maybe second year of high school. But when I was a kid, like in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I used to go to Kmart with my parents. They would go there, go shopping. I would go to the record section, and I would just look through the records. And I remember being mesmerized by two bands that I knew nothing of. One was the Mothers of Invention. Their covers just mesmerized me. And the other was Miles Davis. His I don't know, his album covers just were striking to me, and he was such a cool looking dude, you know. My Kmart story, like anybody gives a shit, you know. Okay, my next one is 68, Phil's D. Kilimanjaro. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. It's Girls of Kilimanjaro. Miles Davis album. This came out in '68 also. It's a transition album. It's the first album with it's starting to have more electric instruments. It has electric bass, electric keyboards. Ron Carter's playing electric bass. Herbie Hancock is playing electric piano. Really good. It's a transitional album. Next one is Miles Davis, In a Silent Way. Now this is when my favorite period of Miles starts. I do like the late 50s stuff too, but this is my favorite part. The electric period of Miles is my favorite. Like I said earlier, I approach jazz from a rock viewpoint, but this is a fantastic album. Maybe, I mean, it's hard to say what his best album is, but this is when things for me start getting good. It's one of his best albums. It's all recorded in one session, I believe, and it's the start of his electric period. The next year he released Bitches Brew. This was critically acclaimed, surprisingly. It still had, you know, jazz in there, you know, so the critics hadn't totally reject Miles yet on this one. It's April 1970 it came out. It rejected traditional jazz, and it started doing other things, but it was, like I said, it was a highly acclaimed album. Really fantastic album cover. And as always, they got these striking pictures of Miles, you know. Next one is Fillmore Live. This came out in 1970. I guess he did 4 nights. Let's see, we got Wednesday Miles, Thursday Miles, Friday Miles, Saturday Miles. And what Tio, his producer, he sliced clips of each night's performance and put it into one side. So one side of the album is different parts of the evening, of the 4 different evenings that he played at the Fillmore. Fantastic stuff. The next one is Miles Davis, Jack Johnson. It was originally just called Jack Johnson. The reissues or the later ones called it a tribute to Jack Johnson. And I got this one in the shrink with the Kmart sticker on it, man. How cool is that, you know? I know some people, take the shrink off. No, not me, buddy. I keep it on now. Back in the days, though, nobody kept shrink on, you know? You'd have to be a nerd to keep your shrink on back in the day. But now I keep it on now because people will pay double for a record, you know, that has the shrink on. So I keep it on now. But anyways, I'm getting off track. I do that. For anybody that hasn't watched my videos, I do tend to do that. There might be some Miles Davis fans that click onto this, and this is the first video they've ever seen of Richie. But anyways, this is came out in '71. It's a hard rock and funk inspired album. I mean, I've heard people say this is a rock album. It's got some funky grooves into it. It is just, if you're not a jazz fan, this is one to check out. Oh, I don't like jazz. Check this one out, dude. Fantastic stuff. Next one is Miles Davis Live. Live Evil. Another one with a great... Look at that album cover, dude. A naked pregnant lady, man. How cool is that, you know? I always like pregnant ladies. They're sexy. And again, striking photos of Miles, man. This dude had charisma. This one was released in '71. It's a mixture of studio and live stuff. Some of the critics did not like this one. Some critics liked it. One guy said that John McLaughlin's guitar sounded like Hindu heavy metal fretwork. Now, a lot of people, heavy metal people, like especially the people that are younger than me, they think heavy metal started in the '80s with Judas Priest, British Steel, you know. But actually the term heavy metal was used in the '70s, and it was used regarding this album, the John McLaughlin's guitar work. Dig this album. It's really good. Now the next one is Miles Davis On the Corner. This was actually the second Miles Davis album I ever bought. And I bought this one shortly after it came out. Came out in October of '72. So I probably bought this at the end of '72, maybe the beginning of '73. But I bought this album pretty much when it came out. And all of the rest of the albums from the 1970s, I bought when they came out. And I still have them all with the exception of Water Babies. That's one that I got rid of. I was so disappointed in that album. It has a cover kind of like this, so I thought I was going to, oh man, a new Miles Davis album, you know? But it was 60s stuff that was never released. But anyways, this one is when the critics really just turned on Miles. They hated this album. The jazz fanatics or the snobs, they hated this album. I loved it. I mean, I used to come home after smoking some weed, put the headphones on, I'd be laying in the bed and just trip out on this shit, you know? Like I said, this came out in '72, and I was, you know, early '73. I was getting kind of burnt out on a lot of the rock, you know? And I started exploring into jazz, and this was the second jazz album I ever bought, you know. And I loved it, and wouldn't you know it, the jazz people hated it. Another cool cover. Different African-American caricatures. And again, you got a striking photo of Miles. This is one of my favorite albums by him. The thing about it, though, the way it starts off on side one, it's like it's in the middle of a song, you know. I think the sequencing on side one is a little bit off, but still a great album. The next one is Miles Davis in Concert. This came out in '73. This is a great. I remember when I bought this when it first came out. I wasn't a big fan of it, but man, I love it now. It is a great album. In fact, it's one of his better live ones, I think. And again, it's got the cartoon characters, you know. And it's got this pretty cool foot fuller and the slickophonics. You know, he was influenced by rock, hard rock, and funk, you know. And it shows in this. Really, really good grooves in this. The next one, I bought this. I bought this right away when it came out. I remember. Big Fun. I have a promo copy now. This came out in '74, right before I graduated high school. It was made up of recordings from '69 to '72, from the Bitches Brew sessions all the way up to the On the Corner sessions. It was different outtakes. And this is fantastic. I didn't know it at the time. I thought it was just all brand new recordings. But yeah, and look, another great photo of Miles. But yeah, this is a really good one too. And it's more of that character, you know, these cartoon guys. That's why I was really disappointed when Water Babies came out. You know, it has this kind of a cover. I thought, all right, man, a new Miles Davis. Boy, they misrepresented it there, I think. Another one that it may be my favorite, to be honest. This one, On the Corner, Jack Johnson, In a Silent Way, probably my favorites. But yeah, I dig this. Get Up With It came out in November of '74. Now this is also another one it's taken from recordings from 1970 all the way up to '74. There are some new recordings on this. But yeah, this is really great, man. Side 1, He Loved Him Madly, the whole side. And then you got Red China Blues. Just a fantastic, funky song. In fact, I highlighted that song in a video I made years ago. What was it? I can't remember. Something Face. Dump Face, or I don't know. Why did I even bring that shit up if I can't remember? But yeah, this is a great album. It's Side 1 is a long, great, really nice, mellow song. Side 2 has like Honky Tonk on it, and it has this song Rated X, which is kind of showing or things to come. It's the organ by Miles Davis is more prominent than the trumpet playing, and it's kind of what was to come. And that would be on this album here, Egg Harta. This was released in '75. He did 2 shows, I guess, in Japan. This was the first show. The second show was released, I think, a year later as Pangaea or something like that. I don't have that album. There's a music on vinyl version of that I saw at Amoeba. And I went to Amoeba this past Saturday, and I traded in some more records, and that was the one I intended to get. Because I not only wanted it, I thought, you know, I could show it in this video. But they didn't have it anymore. Dumbass, I should have got it before. But anyways, this album kind of threw me for a loop when it came out. It's very dense, very loud guitars, droning organs, and the jazz critics hated it. Just like On the Corner, you know. Now they're critically acclaimed, you know. The jazz critics, they're so full of shit. And yeah, look at that, man. Great cover, great shot of Miles. Very cool. Inner. Oh, wow, there's some weed still in there. I used to clean the seeds with this one, apparently, you know. And in the 80s, I bought this. Though, wow, man, this is a Miles Davis album I don't have, you know. But it turns out it's the Japanese version of Egg Harta. So I got 2 versions. I kept it. I dig this album a lot more now than I used to. In fact, I would put it, like I named the 4 favorites, I would put this one in there too, you know. It's a great album. Another great cover. And like I said, I didn't know I had this album already, but I'm glad I got it, you know. Pretty cool. I'm using that one to buy multiple versions. Now, the 1980s stuff, I have 2 left. I got rid of most of my later Miles stuff. But I did keep this one. Decoy. Came out in 84. I think this is a pretty good album. I mean, it doesn't compare to his 70s stuff, but it's a good album. And I kept this one, Tutu, from 1986. Another one that's a really good album. And then I got, oh wow, this one's in the shrink too. And I do have Aura on CD. That one came out maybe a couple of years after this. But I got rid of all my other 80s ones. There was one where he has that Cyndi Lauper song, Time After Time. Great song. But the rest of the album, I didn't really care for. But that's all my Miles Davis. I'm going to leave a link below to Siren Records Monterey. Please subscribe and enter the contest if you want a free Miles Davis album. Take care, everybody. Go Dodgers. Man, what happened to my Jets? 7 starters are hurt. Wow.